Hello everybody, I'm Cuddly Bunny and welcome to the T34-85M review. We'll go quickly over the tank and just try and figure out whether it's worth the quite expensive bundle it's in at the moment. So what's meant to be the advantage of this tank is basically its armor, so we'll go straight into that I think. Unlike the T34-85, it's actually got a 75mm front plate, which is much nicer than the standard 45mm. And as you can see from the values here, you're looking at around, when things are shooting at you flat on, somewhere between 110 and 120 mil, depending on where they hit you. You've got two points of interest on the tank, well, three actually. You've got the weak spot, which is actually this machine gun port here, although it's stronger armor-wise, it's 90mm, but it's not angled, unlike the rest of the armor. And you have this interesting part here, which is actually, if you take a look here, it's the driver's hatch. So people might be tricked into shooting this. I haven't seen it happen yet, but it's something that might happen every now and then. And it's actually stronger than the rest of your armor. Well, if you see, if someone's shooting straight on, around 150mm, which is really nice indeed. And the other point of interest is the lower plate here, which is all pretty much auto bounce angle because it's really well angled, as you can see. So frontally, it's much stronger than a tier 6 medium, but it does have some pretty big downsides, which is the side armor right here. It's only 45mm, which means your angling opportunities on the front of the armor are quite limited. I mean, keeping it, you have to keep it auto bounce basically on the sides here, because just, if you can see, this is angled at what, 60 degrees, and you're getting almost nothing out there. 100mm, well, that's almost 70 degrees now, and still only 100mm. So that's really poor. So you've got to try and keep this at auto bounce at all times, which really limits your angling opportunities there. So you're not going to get much more than the standard amount you're going to get up to, maybe 130mm here and there. So yeah, how do you use this armor effectively? We'll go over it. I'll talk a bit more about it in the games, and I've got a couple of examples of how you can try and abuse this. One of them is thanks to the positioning of the turret. It's quite easy to abuse the front angle if you can cover your side. And the other is just the standard, trying to trick people in using the mobility of the tank to quickly go backwards and forwards to basically try and get people to shoot the wrong spots, which I'll show two examples of in the game as well. So, well, that's about it armor-wise. The turret is a pretty sad state actually, with the mantlet being kind of mixed. I mean, you've got some good areas here and there, but mostly anything with 120mm or more is going to go straight through this unless they hit the auto bounce sides. So that's really sad. You've also got a pretty prominent cupola, although that's about as strong as the rest of the turret, so it doesn't really matter where they hit you. So things like the M1A1 and guns like that, anything 120mm or more penetration, probably going to go through this turret quite easily, which is a really sad thing, but what you're going to do. Quick mention, the rear of the tank is about as weak as you would expect, so there's nothing to mention there. Top profile, your RT is going to hurt you like a lot. There's nothing exceptional there. So let's go into the stats quickly, and well, we would leave it comparing it to the rest of the tier 6 mediums. As you can see, it's a pretty sad state, basically. You've got pretty low penetration than the average, only 126mm, which is acceptable at a tier 6 and tier 7 games, but really struggles in a tier 8. That's going to struggle to pen sides of things. And another quick thing to note is your premium rounds only have 167mm of penetration, so spamming premium isn't really going to help that much either. The damage at 160 is quite nice. It does feel kind of punchy at tier 6. The DPM is around the standard for a tier 6 medium. It's slightly lower, but not enough to really make any difference. Gun handling, it's pretty bad actually. Your maximum accuracy is pretty bad at 0.41, I think the standard stats are. We'll go over what it says in the tank inspector though, because I think this takes into account the commander bonus. So they're a little lower than what you'll see values in game. But anyway, accuracy 0.4, which is bad. Well, at tier 6 it's below average, not by that much, but it is definitely below average. The aim time is really bad part of this tank at 2.4, it really takes a hell of a long time. The circle spread is pretty bad apart from on turret traverse, which is actually pretty good, and you'll see this in the game. If you're not moving around, you can turn your turret, and it doesn't seem to bloom very much on the traversing, so that's really nice. Elevation 25, standard really for a medium. Depression -7, which is easily well, it's not really a problem. It's definitely workable. Anything else interesting? Traverse speed and everything is all fine for a medium. Mobility, well, it's a bit difficult to say this because of the terrain resistances are quite high, but the power to rate ratio isn't that bad, so it's best just to go over this in game. But the speed limit of 53, I'll say now, it's very rare you're going to get to that. You won't get to it on flat unless it's possibly in like town on paved roads. I think my crew get to about 51 on paved roads on flats. And on your squishy medium terrain, I think they top out about 47, 48. So the speed limit really at 53 is only going to be downhill. Reverse is nice at 20 as well. You'll see these come into play during the game. What else is there to mention here? Weirdly, the tank HP is lower than the average by quite a lot as well. I really don't know why they've done this, being as though the thing this tank is meant to be good at is basically absorbing hits and kind of you're a heavy tank mixed with a medium. It's really weird that it has low HP. Another thing to note is the view range is quite bad at 350 meters. Definitely nothing special there. The camo, I'm not sure what that is, but I think it's actually worse than the standard T34-85. But Tank Inspector doesn't know what it is at the moment. That's pretty much all there is to say about this. The combination of the low view range and the low penetration do make this a giant pain in the ass when you see tier 8 games, and you do not get limited matchmaking, you do see tier 8 games. So that's definitely something to note. But let's stop wasting time in here and just jump straight into the games. Okay, so here's the first game. I'm on Himmelsdorf. I'm middle tier, although there's very few tier 7s, only an E25 and an RT. And, well, actually this is a really good point to point out the mobility for the hill climbing. As you can see, it's not particularly good. The combination of only a really, well, a slightly below average horsepower to ton and the bad terrain resistances, you can see she feels pretty sluggish going up hills. Once you're over them, it's not too bad, but yeah, this thing is definitely not going to be getting up to places like the hills or mines and things like that quicker than any other medium. Actually, I would strongly recommend just abandoning any ideas of getting to advanced positions in this tank. It's just not quick enough, really. But I still come up to this position. It's a really good position. I think if you've watched my videos before, there's probably quite a few instances of me using this position. Great starting place to go, and as you can see, this T34-85M is about to pass straight in front of me. Awfully kind of him, and he's going to have a really bad day with me right now. I'm in a great position, and he is definitely not. And that's a really good thing to note actually there. As you can see, the T34-85 has the same side armor as me, and despite its heavy angling, I still managed to penetrate him even with my meager 126 pen. And, well, this guy is pretty humiliated now, and, well, he did finally pen me, but he's going to really struggle even in that spot. KB1 comes around to give him a hand, but I've got a KB2 and a Tiger 1 when they decide to do something as well, so I don't think this fight's going to go in their favour at all. So yeah, as you can see, if you the gun does work, especially when you're at this close range, but it's best to just take these snapshots rather than let it aim, because what I'm trying to do is bait him into either shooting my heavily angled front play or the ricochet zones on my turrets by moving a lot. And that's pretty much what you want to be trying to do to get the most out of this armor. He only has 140 something penetration, so I should be able to bounce a lot, and as you saw, he penned once and bounced once and missed all the rest, so it's a pretty good tactic, and we definitely came out of that fight on top. And now you can see my inexperience with this tank. Trying to find some gun depression there, but then I just drive over the hill after looking at the mini-map, because as I'm sure a lot of you are aware, when you push up into this spot you regularly get sniped by, say for example, that Nashorn. But that T34 looks like he's distracting them, the same as the KP85, so I didn't have to worry too much about that and just drove straight into the open to take out the TOG. Now you're going to see the top speed come into play. Unlike, say, the Centurion and even the Fury, actually, the more recent Tier 6 Premium that well, not more recent, the other Tier 6 Premium, medium that I reviewed, you can get up to your top speed and you get around pretty quickly once you're there, but yeah, look, we've actually gone all the way down to 50, despite the fact that we're on hard terrain right now. It really cannot hold its speed due to the terrain resistances and the low power to weight. And now this game is, well, it's pretty much over. There's no one really that threatening left. As you can see, the bloom when you're moving that fast is horrible. Do not expect to hit anything. And now I go for the track on this Nashorn. But as you can see, the aiming time in this tank is really, really horrible. And most of the time, you're just going to be taking clutch shots, because you don't have the time to be sitting around for 2.5 seconds just to let the bloody thing aim. And of course the other downside of this is that you also feel like you need to kind of run a setup of vents, GLD, rammer, and have a good crew to kind of make this gun feel responsive enough to work properly. And that's really not something I like to do, because you're a medium tank, and if you play aggressively like me, then you're going to want some kind of view range enhancement. And well, most of the time my premium tanks are used to train up the bad crews, so I don't usually have the good ones. So it's a real downside of this tank is its gun, and its balancing factor is meant to be its armor, and it's really not good enough in my opinion. In tier 6 games, the armor definitely will show its good points. I mean, you're going to be able to quite easily dominate tier 5s and tier 4s with a little bit of forward thinking and some angling, but as soon as you get to tier 7 and tier 8 games, just anything's going to be able to punch straight through this armor. And as you saw, because of the low side armor, there's not always that much you can do about it, just because, well, you can't angle it too much. And, well, you've got the big ass weak spot, which is your turret, which is a real pain in the ass. On that note, let's go over a couple of other instances actually where you can try and, well, a couple of tips to try and maximize the usage of this armor, and then we'll go over the final verdict of the tank. Right, so here's the first of the examples of what you can do to try and increase the armor's effectiveness. Basically, as you saw in Tank Inspector, we have a pretty heavily angled front, and we also have a very far forwards turret. So this is not something you can do in very many tanks, but you can actually poke your turret around a corner while angling your front, and basically the only thing they can shoot at is the heavily angled front part of your tank, so you can just get away with doing whatever you want in these situations. As you saw, this VK just had a really bad time with me, and well, everything that came across this area actually had a pretty bad time with me, but yeah, there's the first example of what you can do. And well, when you don't quite have the position of this, here's another thing you can try. So this E25 has come out to play, and basically what I'm doing here is just keeping my sides auto bouncer zone, and just driving forwards and backwards to try and get him into shooting the side, which is obviously an auto bounce. So for once one of my quick reviews has actually turned out to be kind of quick, let's just go over the kind of endgame ratings that I usually do for the tank. So the armor's only going to get 6 out of 10. I mean, it's really not that good. If it had a good turret, maybe you could try and exploit it a bit better, but it's just weak overall. I mean, if anything has 130 penetration, there's not actually that much that you're going to be able to do against them if they know what they're doing. Because as soon as you try and angle enough to bounce 130, your side armor then becomes 100mm or whatever. So it's a real pain in the ass that a tank that's meant to be all about its armor is actually pretty badly armored, just due to the fact that that side is just too weak. Personally, I think they probably should have just put a T43 stock and lobbed that at tier 6 if they weren't going to give it limited matchmaking, and that would have done much better because it has kind of the same front but much better side armor. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to say about the armor. So onto mobility, I'm going to give it a 5.5 out of 10. I mean, the high-ish terrain resistances coupled with the below average power to weight for a medium is really not a very fast tank. I mean, it's definitely not heavy mobility as I said, but it's just not quick enough to really feel like you can just scurry across the battlefield as quickly as you need to be. And, well, the top speed saves it a bit, but just not enough personally to give it a good rating, I feel anyway. So, yeah, 5.5 out of 10. Yeah, you're not going to enjoy your time with it if you think you're going to get a fast medium, that's for sure. Weaponry, I'm going to give it probably only a 5 out of 10, actually. Just everything apart from the alpha is pretty bad about this gun. The penetration is below average, the penetration with APCR is also below average. The gun handling is just god awful unless you have a very good crew and good equipment on it. It's really not a nice gun to be working with, especially on a medium. As you saw, just the bloom is horrendous while you're on the move, and coupled with a 2.4 second aiming time, it just really doesn't feel like it belongs on the high mobility kind of tank. So yeah, definitely only 5 out of 10 for that gun. Real sad point for this tank. And other things to mention, view range is bad, so yeah, that's sad. Depression is fine. Money making capabilities, that's something I haven't gone over actually. I mean, you probably, if you play okay and you have a premium account and you don't spam APCR, you're going to be making 30,000 credits a game, I would have thought actually with this thing. It does make pretty good credits, and even if you did spam APCR, you probably still wouldn't be in the negative. A bit like the other tier 6 premium as well. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it as a kind of main money maker, but it's definitely not actually that. So overall, it's actually going to get probably, I would say, a 7 out of 10 for that. I mean, it's really hurt by the low view range, but I mean, it's not that bad otherwise. It's also got the right kind of crew setup for training your Russian crews, and obviously it gets its premium crew bonuses as well. So yeah, 7 out of 10 is perfectly fine, I think, overall for that anyway. So conclusions, I guess. Personally, I don't think I can recommend this tank unless you're looking for a premium tier 6 medium trainer for Russia. That's the only real reason I see that you would want this thing. I mean, if you want an armoured medium tank, then just get a jumbo, because it's way better armoured, and the gun handling, especially as you can use vert stabs on it, is much better for the jumbo. Let's use the derb cannon, I guess. And also the jumbo actually fares interestingly better in tier 8 games if you're using the top turret, because it has better view range. So yeah, overall it's a pretty sad tank. I think they've been a little bit mean to this tank. I mean, it's just got nothing really that good going for it. As I said, a T43 stock I think would have made a much better contender for a tier 6 tank. Because it would have been armoured but slowish and with the same gun as this has really. I don't know why they didn't do that. It's really nothing special at all. So, well, that's about it, I guess. So, thanks everyone for watching. I hope this helped someone, somewhere. And I will see you all next time.